Hello again. Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. My name's Hello Good Game, your host within this Magic the Gathering video, part 2 of a 4-part series discussing my favorite and what I can only assume will be the top 10 cards within each rarity. In the last video, we discussed the common cards. Today, we're lucky enough to talk about the common cards that I'm most excited for. And, they are getting pretty good at supporting free-to-play individuals within their new expansion releases. Kudos to Wizards. It's very nice to see. There is a ton of value here to go through. So let's get started and discuss one of my favorite cards of the set. Never mind the uncommon rarity, Bitter Triumph for 2 mana at instant speed, destroying target creature or planeswalker. No restrictions, baby, but as an additional cost to cast this spell, either discard a card or pay 3 life. Okay, that's a pretty heavy toll. Comparing it to Infernal Grasp, destroying target creature, you lose 2 life, right? This can take planeswalkers, as well as dodge the life loss entirely through a discard, which can now count as a descend trigger, a new mechanic within the set. Very, very nice. Bitter Triumph. Be on the lookout for this. Honestly, I think it's pretty good. Moving on to Kutzel, Malamet Exemplar. HCG, you got to work on your pronunciation before these videos, bro. My lord. For 3 mana, it's a 3/3 legendary creature cat warrior. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Really? And whenever one or more creatures you control attack with power greater than its base power, deal damage to an opponent, draw a card. Yeah. Okay, so we're shutting down our opponent's interaction in a pretty big way, forcing them to cast main phase on their own turn. And now we also get to draw cards? Sign me up. Twists and Turns for 1 mana as an enchantment. And whenever a creature you control would explore, instead, first scry 1 and then explore, setting up your explore, confirming the land drop. Typically, you want the lands off the explorer, unless you're farming +1/+1 counters, which can happen sometimes too. It depends, I suppose. And as it enters the battlefield, target creature you control explores, which will be a scry, and then explore, which, again, this is pretty good value for 1 mana. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, transform it into the Mycode Maze, adding 1 mana, but you can pay 4, tap it, a total of 5, including itself. Looking at the top 4 cards of your library, revealing a creature card from among them, putting that card into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, you mean that's not bad because, if you're exploring with creatures, you're going to be looking for more creatures to explore with. This just goes around and around, and I see a lot of value being generated here. I would assume a must include in any explore deck. The Scytheclaw Raptor, 3 mana, 4/3. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, deal 4 damage to them. It's a 4/3 body too, so a good attacker as well. Dinosaur, nice for the new tribal things that we see. And honestly, what a great sideboard card. If you're so fed up with mono blue, mainboard it, sure. But if you're playing best of 3, oh man, they are not going to want to see this. And then to make things even worse, you could play, which is not a uncommon, it is a mythic, coming up in a future video, the Caverns. It's uncounterable. Let's go. Oh my gosh. So I think it's a really cool card that can maybe even just be a competitive mainboard card in potentially the current format, or at least make sure that the mono blue players aren't so confident, right? Moving on to Bartolome de Presidio. My lord. 2 mana, 2 power, 1 toughness, legendary creature, Vampire Knight. Pretty cool there. Allowing us to sacrifice another creature at instant speed with no requirements, as many times as we want, putting a +1/+1 counter on itself. And not only creature, but also artifact. So this is crazy. This is runnable in a lot of things, I feel like. Last time we had that, it was a Woe Strider for the sacrifice. And we remember how integral that was. That you got to scry there, which was pretty cool. But the +1 counters are no joke either, right? So very, very cool. Not to mention one was a rare. This is an uncommon card. So Note Scout for 1, a 1/1 Mirfolk Scout, and when it enters the battlefield, it explores. Again, revealing the top. If it's a land in hand, if it's a non-land, +1/+1 counter, and then choose to leave it on top or put it into grave. Pretty good. You know, it's potentially a 1 mana 1/1 draw land or a 1 mana 2/2. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. I don't think, anyways. The spring-loaded Saw Blades for 2 mana, an artifact with flash. Entering the battlefield, it will deal 5 damage to target tapped creature an opponent controls. Ooh. You have the wrong color here? It gets tapped, I guess. You know, that's a white thing, but this is decent, right? And then craft with an artifact and 4, exiling this artifact and another artifact you either control or own in your own graveyard to transform it into the Blade Wheel Chariot, a casual 5/5 vehicle, crew for 1, that can also be crewed by tapping 2 untapped artifacts you control, right? So if you have like some map tokens or something, you could utilize those to crew the Chariot, or just a creature with 1 power. Pretty good. You know, it's really good removal that you also get a decent creature on the backside of. Well, not a vehicle, you know, but nonetheless, it's pretty good. Zowawa Lava Tongue, 2 mana, 2/2, legendary creature, Goblin Warlock. Okay, you have my attention, HGG. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. It's going to deal 3 damage to each opponent who did not, which is pretty groovy. You know, it's a legendary, kind of the downside to it, but the output, like, it's got Death Touch too, right? So, you know, you could just be defending with it to play another one, because then it's like a quasi removal as well. So, hey, Spelunking for 3 mana, enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and then you put a land card from your hand into the battlefield. If you put a cave into the battlefield this way, gain 4 life. Meh. I mean, it's cool, sure, great, but lands you control enter the battlefield untapped? What? Okay, so there's so many things. It's like, give you extra lands, but they enter the battlefield tapped. Not to mention just lands that enter the battlefield tapped, right? This is pretty good. I don't mind it. I mean, you know, like, all of the Triomes just enter in untapped as base value. We look beyond that, you know, whatever triggers 2 or 3 lands entering the battlefield tapped. Now they're untapped that you can immediately utilize. Going further than that, there's like the Lotus that, you know, there's things that we can do here, and I think we're gonna see it. Zowawa's Justice for 2 mana. What am I doing? Instant speed. The owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. That player discovers X, where X is its mana value. I like it because it's both like an offensive and defensive spell. It's instant speed, so you can just like deal with something that you can't deal with. Oh, there's a Shield Ritter, like, you know, a trampled, a Golta, a double strike, whatever, attacking me, you know, just something you can't handle. Get rid of it, you know, and then you live to draw another day, draw another turn. But you could also just kind of cycle your own library. We see so many artifacts with really, really nice ETBs that craft later on, right? Enters the battlefield, they sacrifice a creature. Enters the battlefield, scry and draw, you know, things like this. This can allow you to capitalize on that ETB, send it back to your library to grab a new one, right? And then just cycling ETBs that you are going to flicker later or something, while simultaneously, you know, making sure your opponent doesn't get too far ahead of themselves, right? So, you know, one of my favorite uncommons of the set, that is our top 10 that we have for you today. Of course, in the following video, we will be discussing my favorite and top 10 rares of the Lost Caverns of Ixilan. And finally, after that, we're going to break down the Mythic cards. So if you haven't seen a part of the series yet, definitely check it out. I'll try to put them all maybe in a playlist together or something. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member, join the community Discord if you want to help support or just like hang out, right? And have a magical day. Yeah? Okay, deal. And I'll see you soon in the next. Take care.